This is the exact federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. On day 3 of the trial, media attention was already intense, but what happened next took everyone by surprise. The prosecution introduced an unheard audio recording made by Prince just weeks before he died. Prince's voice filled the courtroom, calm yet haunted, as he mentioned names, recounted private parties, and described what he claimed to have seen behind Diddy's closed doors. The room went silent, but it was Diddy's reaction that changed everything. His carefully maintained image shattered before the jurors when he suddenly lost control, forcing the judge to warn him about contempt. This wasn't a rumor or some social media gossip, it was sworn testimony. From that moment on, the trial's atmosphere shifted completely. The secret recording made by Prince could be the key evidence that brings the whole case crashing down. The morning of day 3 began like the previous days, but something in the air felt different. The energy was sharper. The legal teams moved with a new urgency that hadn't been seen before. Reporters hurried to find seats, their posture tense. Some court staff even whispered, "Today is going to be tough for someone." No one imagined just how true that would be. Diddy entered the courtroom as usual, wearing a sharp navy suit with his signature smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. He acknowledged the gallery with a nod. His lawyers stayed composed, quietly consulting and exchanging papers. Everything seemed normal until a subtle change happened near the prosecution's table. 2 technicians quietly brought in new equipment, a small black audio device, a laptop, and wires that hadn't been seen in the courtroom before. One technician nodded to the lead prosecutor, who avoided looking at Diddy as he glanced down at the table. Something was clearly about to happen. At first, Diddy didn't seem to notice. He appeared calm and confident, but observant eyes could tell tension was building. The judge entered and made an unusual announcement: "Today's evidence may cause strong reactions. I expect everyone to remain composed." His glance toward Diddy didn't go unnoticed. Then the turning point came. The prosecution asked to present what they called crucial new audio evidence. The defense quickly objected, claiming they had no prior notice of the new exhibit. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. Diddy's lead attorney stood up and demanded the evidence be thrown out, accusing the prosecution of ambushing them. But the judge had already reviewed the paperwork and confirmed it was properly submitted. His ruling was firm: the evidence would be allowed. Then the prosecutor delivered a statement that struck the courtroom like lightning: "You are about to hear the last private recording made by Prince Rogers Nelson." Silence fell. Phones were put away. Journalists poised their fingers over keyboards. Even Diddy looked taken aback, glancing at his lawyers with wide eyes as if asking, "What is this?" The prosecutor connected the device and hit play. The voice that filled the courtroom wasn't the bold, flamboyant Prince everyone knew. Instead, it was soft, low, and uneasy. "I'm making this recording because I don't know who I can trust anymore," the voice said. Prince began speaking, and the tone sent chills through everyone listening. This wasn't a show, it was a confession. In the recording, Prince revealed that he had attended private parties hosted by Diddy at various properties in Miami, the Hamptons, and Los Angeles. He recounted disturbing details: young artists being separated from their handlers, pushed to drink and take pills, private rooms with locked doors, hidden cameras, and no security personnel allowed inside. This matched exactly the pattern Cassie Ventura had described during her first 2 days on the stand. Prince was clear and specific. He named names, gave exact dates, including a December 2015 party in Beverly Hills, and described behaviors that echoed earlier witness statements almost word for word. What made this moment different and shifted the courtroom from skepticism to alarm was that Prince spoke fully aware of the consequences. "If something happens to me," he said, "this recording needs to get to the press or the police, either one." As Prince's voice played, Diddy's body language shifted drastically. His eyes narrowed, his mouth twitched, and he stopped whispering to his lawyers. He leaned forward, hunched slightly, his face pale. Jurors began watching him as intently as they listened to the tape. Then Prince said something that shattered the room: "These aren't just parties, they are traps." The silence was so deep that you could hear his breathing between words. A woman in the back row cried openly, and a reporter in the front row dropped her pen. Diddy's attorney placed a calming hand on his arm, but Diddy pulled away. Prince continued, explaining he had warned Diddy about what he witnessed. During an after-party in 2016, he confronted him and said the manipulation of young artists and guests had to stop. Prince claimed Diddy laughed and said, "You might be Prince, but you're not untouchable." That line struck the courtroom like a gunshot. Diddy's lips moved as he whispered to his team. One lawyer grabbed a yellow legal pad and started writing frantically. Another glanced at the judge, seemingly waiting to object. But there was nothing to challenge, the damage was already happening. Just as the tension peaked and Prince's calm but damning testimony continued in relentless detail, Diddy lost control. The tape moved on to describe a March 2016 party involving multiple celebrities and a troubling incident upstairs. As Prince named the address, already referenced in the prosecution's forensic timeline, Diddy erupted. "That's a lie," he shouted, standing abruptly. His voice echoed through the courtroom, startling even the bailiffs. Security rushed forward immediately. His lawyers stood, trying to pull him back into his seat. One attorney hissed, "Sit down." But Diddy's voice grew louder, he wasn't even there. That never happened. The judge slammed the gavel repeatedly. "Mr. Combs, control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt." The courtroom descended into chaos. Jurors exchanged shocked looks, two appeared visibly disturbed. A court sketch artist later said she had to redraw Diddy's face 3 times due to his rapidly changing expressions. Order was restored as the judge instructed the prosecution to pause the tape. Diddy's breathing was heavy, his hands trembled on the defense table. The polished image of the billionaire mogul and untouchable icon vanished, replaced by a man who looked panicked, cornered, and crumbling in front of the jury. This was no coincidence. Court insiders later confirmed what many had suspected: they had deliberately timed this tape after days of gradual build-up, small testimonies, and careful cross-examinations. They picked this moment, on day 3, believing it was when Diddy's defenses would be down. And it worked. He revealed to the jury everything they needed to see: anger, guilt, and loss of control, all without being cross-examined. Prince's voice hadn't even finished. After a short recess to restore order in the courtroom, the judge ordered the prosecution to continue playing Prince's audio. By then, the mood had shifted completely. No one whispered, typed, or even sketched. The courtroom fell silent, all eyes fixed on the speakers. The voice of a deceased man now held command over one of the most powerful rooms in entertainment law. Prince's voice resumed, describing what he called an organized system of manipulation he had witnessed firsthand. He spoke deliberately, carefully selecting his words as though knowing this might be the last time anyone heard them. "What I've seen is not something you can just forget," he said. "They make it look glamorous, but I've seen it destroy people." He spoke of parties held at Diddy's private homes, not vague memories, but precise details, room layouts, guest names, even furniture colors. These matched earlier testimonies from Cassie Ventura and 2 other unnamed witnesses. Most disturbing were Prince's mentions of NDAs and hush money. "I've seen the contracts," Prince said in the recording. "I've seen money exchanged, $2 million here, $1.5 million there. And I've seen what happens to those who try to leave. They disappear, and not physically, but in music and social circles. They're gone." Diddy remained seated, visibly trembling, staring blankly ahead. His eyes didn't blink for nearly a minute. A court reporter noted one of his lawyers quietly handed him a folded tissue, which he refused. Then Prince delivered another blow. "I warned him at the Grammy after-party," he said, referring to Diddy. "I told him flat out this would catch up to him." He added, "You might be Prince, but I own this game, and people like you don't change it, they get erased." The room echoed with the impact of that statement. Diddy showed no visible reaction, but his jaw clenched. One juror shook her head, another leaned back, stunned. This was no longer just evidence, it was a precise character attack from someone with no motive to lie, no stake in the trial, and no chance of being cross-examined. From beyond the grave, Prince was painting Diddy not as a flawed individual, but as a manipulative predator with a carefully built empire of silence and control. And the prosecution hadn't even finished with the tape. If you've ever witnessed a trial unravel in real time, this was that moment. The prosecution had built a slow-burning case through Cassie Ventura's for days of testimony, weaving years of abuse, manipulation, and secrets. Now, with Prince's voice, they poured gasoline on the fire. Prince shared his own fears. "I didn't speak out while I was alive," he said, "because I saw what happened to those who did. I watched them lose contracts, get dropped from tours, and shut out of award shows. It's not just about power. Fear is at the core. It keeps everyone silent." He described a moment at one of Diddy's events when he suspected a guest was being secretly recorded. "I saw cameras in the chandelier," Prince said. He told a producer, who just shrugged and replied, "That's just how it is." The message was clear: blackmail, surveillance, control, not only through money but by holding secrets. This aligned with rumors from years ago about footage Diddy kept as leverage. None of it had ever been confirmed, until now. Prince didn't guess, he documented. "I have files," he said, "hard drives, tapes, photographs, all dated and carefully organized. I gave copies to 3 people. If anything happens to me, check with them." This was no ordinary recording, it was a whistleblower's blueprint. It revealed why Diddy had lost control earlier that day. He likely knew what else could be out there and recognized details only someone in his inner circle could know. The tape's precision and how perfectly it matched the prosecution's timeline made it impossible to ignore. Near the end, Prince said something that could haunt the trial forever: "I spent my life protecting my music, but now I see it's the people who needed protection, and no one was really doing it, not when it counted." The recording stopped. Silence fell. The courtroom remained frozen. Then the prosecutor said, "No further questions, Your Honor." No more was needed. Prince had done the heavy lifting from beyond the grave. Right after court adjourned, Diddy's team acted quickly. They filed an emergency motion to suppress the recording, arguing the audio couldn't be verified, the witness was dead and couldn't be cross-examined, and the tape was prejudicial. But they knew it was too late. The jury had already heard it. Worse, they saw Diddy lose control. Legal experts outside the courtroom responded swiftly. "You don't come back from that," one said. The jury saw the defendant break while hearing the voice of a legendary artist. Inside, reporters noticed Diddy barely spoke after the tape ended. He leaned forward on the defense table, elbows pressing into the wood, eyes fixed on the floor. His lawyer tried to talk to him. He nodded but didn't answer. He seemed smaller, fragile, like reality had finally caught up with him. The most damning moment came not from the courtroom but from the jury box. As the judge sent the jury home for the day, 3 jurors lingered, looking back at Diddy. One shook their head slowly, another appeared visibly shaken. No transcript needed to know what was on their minds. They had witnessed something unforgettable. Prince did more than damage Diddy's defense, he changed the entire trial's course. The most frightening part for Diddy? Prince had left more behind. After the recording ended, a heavy silence filled the courtroom. Prince's message hung like a fog, measured, mournful, deliberate. His calm voice carried fear, frustration, and finality. The last words Prince said before the recording stopped were, "If anything happens to me, make sure this reaches the right people. This isn't just about protecting myself. It's about standing up for those who never had a chance to speak." No music played, no familiar falsetto, just silence when the audio stopped. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. No applause, no whispers, not even the gavel made a sound for several seconds. The judge looked down at his notes, glanced at the jury, and took a deep breath before continuing. Everyone understood this was more than a legal move, it was a cultural shockwave. The judge calmly but firmly reminded the jury that they must not consider the source's death as proof of truth or guilt. They were to judge the content in the context of the entire record. Yet, anyone watching could see it on the jurors' faces, they weren't just hearing testimony, they were deeply moved by it. Diddy sat perfectly still, almost like a ghost. His hands were motionless, and his face showed no expression. The fight had left his eyes. For the first time during the trial, he appeared less like a powerful billionaire and more like a man facing the real threat of breaking down. Although the court adjourned for the day, no one really left the courtroom. They lingered, stunned, like survivors of an event they didn't yet understand. Outside, reporters described the moment as unprecedented, a game-changer, and career-ending. Legal analysts on streaming panels were already debating how this single audio clip could shift the entire case. But the biggest change had already occurred, not in the law, but in the story being told. Diddy was no longer just a defendant, he had become a man named by someone the world still loved, trusted, and mourned. And that trust couldn't be questioned in court. Jurors are told to focus only on the facts presented, to leave emotions out of their judgment. But no one can unhear a dead legend calling out names, detailing crimes, and begging the world to pay attention. No juror could ignore what happened to Diddy's carefully built image once the recording played. What the jury saw on day 3 was a real-time psychological collapse. A man who had ruled his industry for decades slowly falling apart before their eyes. They watched his body stiffen when Prince mentioned a specific party date. They saw him mumble, sweat, and twitch. Then he erupted, shouting that Prince was lying, only to be warned of contempt by the judge. Yet, the most damaging moment wasn't his outburst, it was the silence afterward. Diddy didn't bounce back emotionally, physically, or legally. He slumped for the rest of the day, sometimes burying his face in his hands. The jury, once only mildly interested, now hung on every second. Their attention shifted from the lawyers to him. This is the moment prosecutors dream of but rarely achieve. Presenting strong evidence is one thing, creating a turning point where jurors shift from neutral to fully engaged, from doubtful to convinced, is another. That's exactly what happened. Psychologists call this anchor bias, when a powerful moment becomes the lens through which everything else is seen. From then on, every defense argument would be viewed through the prism of Prince's voice and Diddy's reaction. One juror wiped tears from her eyes as the audio ended. Another clasped his hands tightly, looking more like he was praying than staying composed. Whatever story the defense tried to tell, it was drowned out by that voice. The defendant, who had finally stopped pretending, couldn't be cross-examined. After Prince's recording was played, the court came alive again, but nothing felt the same. Even before testimony resumed, there was talk that more recordings might exist. Prince's vault, rumored to hold hundreds of unreleased works, could contain more than just music. An insider from the prosecution, speaking off the record, said, "We believe Prince was documenting something bigger, and this might not be the only thing he left behind." This possibility sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Who else could be named? What other secrets might be locked away in that vault? How deep did Prince's concerns run? It's clear the trial has grown beyond Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. It's no longer only about free coughs, NDAs, and past abuse. It has become a broader reckoning with the culture Diddy helped create. Thanks to Prince, that culture now has a voice of resistance. Investigators are reportedly seeking additional subpoenas related to Prince's estate, hoping to find hard drives, tapes, or written notes he left behind. If verified, these could lead to new cases, new charges, or even implicate powerful figures once believed untouchable. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is trying to contain the fallout. They have filed motions to exclude Prince's tape, arguing it causes emotional prejudice. But the judge has already ruled it admissible, and even if it's later excluded, the impact has already been felt. The public has heard it. The jury has heard it. Diddy has heard it, and he broke down. As the trial moves into its next phase, the question on everyone's mind is, what else is hidden in Prince's vault? And more importantly, who will be exposed next? If day 3 was the moment the case broke open, what happens next could be the moment the entire industry starts to unravel.